Hello, everyone. Welcome to a special post-lockout edition of the Noise Brigade. I am Bobby. He is Tom, and we are going to talk a little baseball today. How you doing, Tom?
I'm doing good, man. Yeah, I'm so excited. And this actually happened on my birthday, so I was, super tickled about that. The funny thing is that I had no idea because I was kind of in the middle of stuff, work and with everything going on. I didn't find out about it until you texted me. So that was a nice, pleasant surprise.
Yeah. Well, what I did is I actually did that for your birthday. That was the present that I got you. So I you can just give all the credit for this lockout ending to me.
Okay, cool. No, I appreciate that.
I mean, sorry I didn't get you a card, but I figured the entire sport coming back would be good enough.
Yeah. That's I mean, that's hey, you know what, man. I don't know what kind of strings you pulled, but you did it, and now I was super excited about it. And I mean, the funny thing was though, there were a lot of differences, coming from maybe things that came through like the last couple of COVID years, if you will, that kind of stuck, and we'll talk about those. Some different rule changes, different things there. Um, and I would like to just kind of cap this off by, just kind of talking about our Phillies and what they did or didn't do so far this offseason. But now, man, you want to just kind of dive into some of these rule changes and kind of see where we're at here, and just kind of we'll go back and forth on this because I think you and I are probably on the same page on a lot of this stuff, but I think there's some things that we might have a discussion on. So what do you think? What do you want to do that?
Yeah, man, let's go. Let's go. So
Let's
I
dive
guess
in.
so. We'll start off with the first one, which is probably the biggest one, and that's the universal DH. So I think we both were kind of resigned to the fact that this was coming, but I still don't like it.
Yeah, this is tough. I figured it was coming, and look, there's an era of great hitting pitchers. In that hell, I mean, Otani, look at him now.
Right.
But I mean, before that, though, I mean, I'm talking about the likes of a Cliff Lee or those people that actually spent the time to go through and really hone their entire game. And I think those guys are few and far between. Those days they were behind us, and I think the other thing too is that the AL has had the DH since what 1970, I believe.
Yeah, now I'm gonna let me look it up real quick.
I,
Let's see.
yeah, I can't remember. I want to say it was 70, but I don't exactly remember when.
1973.
Okay. And it was in the 70s. So it's been a long time coming. So that happened, several years before, you and I were even on the planet. So this is one of those things that we just grew up with National League Baseball being entirely different. There was more strategy there. You said some really different things there. That's the one thing I hate the most. This absolutely kills that strategy. I don't know. What about you? What do you think about that portion of it?
Yeah, no, and that's where I get angry at it is, baseball. I feel like we're dumbing it down, and we'll get to the other parts that are contributing to this, but there used to be a strategy that National League managers had to adhere to, and it was, all right, well, I've got a pitcher who's got a hot hand right now, but we're coming into the end of the game, and he's next up, he's in the hole, and we've got or he's on deck. We've got a guy on the bench. Like for instance, we've got Reese Hoskins sitting the bench today, taking a rest. Do we bring him in with the bases loaded you know, to kind of seal the deal, or do we just let him ride? When do we lift the pitcher? Now it's just like, oh well, we'll just lift the pitcher whenever we want, and there's no strategy involved. It's we don't have to worry about him hitting. He can just stay in the game. You don't have to, you can use him up to the last drop, um, instead of maybe potentially pulling him early or pulling him too late. And
Right.
so it takes something off of the manager's plate, and it just kind of, I don't know. I like the strategic element of letting your pitcher be a part of the batting order and having to figure out. how to balance and when to gamble and when not to, you know?
Right, and the one thing I've thought about too, because moving down here when I did, so I've been down here for about the last 20 years. I was caught a lot of St. Louis baseball, and I remember watching like Tony La Russa and some of these other guys that would slot the pitcher in the eighth hole. So they would put him eight in the batting order, and there's reasons for that. Just dependent upon lineup, the lineup flipping and just different things. It's a caveat, real small little strategy piece there, but those days are gone. And I'm not saying that I was a fan of it necessarily, as far as like stuff that part of it. Like I just in my head, it's like, well, they have to hit in the ninth position, but they would do these different things with it, and it was like, okay, I could see why. But it's just interesting. I think the other thing too, and I don't know. I mean, I just kind of had these thoughts as I was kind of thinking this through. I would imagine that some of these National League teams have kind of had to work over the rosters over the last couple of years to kind of accommodate the pitcher hitting. And I don't know if that positions the AL better necessarily when it comes, World Series time, playoff time, whatever, just overall that side of it. Because now the NL is playing the AL's game. I just don't, look at the Phillies themselves right now as it stands. I mean, we don't have the Nelson Cruz DH. We don't have the, we don't have that kind of person. Whereas a lot of the AL teams, to me, they do. I don't know. It's going to be interesting.
Well, and it's funny too, because I mean, you talk about Tony La Russa batting the pitcher lower in the order. And honestly, so we've talked quite a bit about Super Baseball Simulator 1000, and you and I kind of have, I stole a strategy from you where, you load up the top half of your lineup with mashers, and then the bottom half of your lineup, or you split up your lineup so you've got mashers behind speed guys that can bunt and get on base and load the bases, and then you got a masher right there. And so even in games like that in MVP baseball for the Xbox, there were times when I was doing that, where I was adjusting it. Even in the show, I would adjust my lineup to get somebody, a hot hitter, or not necessarily a hot hitter, but more of a contact guy in the 9 hole, so that you've got that, so that you're not ending, say the first 2 innings, you're up and down, right? So then that leaves you with your 7, 8, and 9 hole hitters in the to start off the third. Well, by the third, I want to start generating some offense. So I'm worried, say my seven hitter gets on, right? And then my 8 hitter gets on, and then I got the pitcher and batting 9th, or something like that. There's some kind of thing like that. I don't want it to be dead to my pitcher to try and drive those guys in and possibly hit into a double play or something like that, or any kind of, I don't want to leave it on my pitcher to be the clutch hitter if need be.
Exactly.
So I'll adjust that, and I could even move them up to 7, so lead off the inning with an out, and then you're not clogging up the base paths either.
No kidding. It's funny. To this day, if I do throw on the show, I still kind of do the same thing. I still kind of adjust my lineup to where, like you said, I have a contact hitter in a certain position, and then hopefully it'll lead me to somebody that's going to drive me in, whether it's a gap or a home run. But no, the kind of same way. I would kind of fuss around a little bit near the bottom of my lineup. I would never really touch the pitcher though. It really depended. I might, depending upon how well everyone was playing, or if I needed to rest somebody or those sorts of things. But again, that's part of the strategy, and that's part of the strategy that real managers had, and that part goes away. So again, I think this isn't revolutionary. We knew this was coming, and I'm kind of shocked that it took almost 50 years to come to the National League.
Right.
So, okay.
All right. So let's move on.
Yes. Playoffs.
Playoffs?
Playoffs? Practice? No, playoffs. Ooh, man, 12 teams. My goodness, what the heck?
Yeah. And I don't know if this is just me being a curmudgeon or get off my lawn kind of thing, but like I don't like that we're moving to 12 playoff teams, and there's still 162 games schedule. It's too long of a season to play for most of that season to not matter, because you're getting 12 teams in. Like,
Yeah.
now I'll be the first person to say that I think the NHL playoffs are the best playoffs in all of sports, and yes, a lot of teams make it, but they only play an 82 game schedule. And yeah, that's still a lot of games, but to get to where they need to get to, it works out. I just
Yeah.
can't see 12 baseball teams making the playoffs. I mean, we've gone from, God, when we were growing up, it was two teams from each league.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we went
Yeah.
from four teams total making the playoffs to 12 teams. I don't
Yeah.
know.
The thing, here's the part that bothers me about it. And again, look, several things. 162 game season, too long for this. Shorten the season. If you're going to do that, drop it to the old 154 at least. Knock those 8 games off.
Right.
And at least keep it traditional with 154 games. For those of you that are like 80 or 90 years old, I guess you remember that.
I don't know why you looked at me when you said that.
But the other thing too is you're talking about over a third of the league making the playoffs. There's 30 teams, so right. Expand the league if you want 12 teams. I don't know what the magic number is, but I'm telling you, you're not going to get what I think I've heard rumblings of. Maybe Nashville getting an expansion team or Montreal getting one again. I've heard rumblings there, but I've not heard rumblings more than maybe a couple different cities getting a major league team. Even at 32 teams, 12 is high. Right. And I just don't know how it works if you add things there, because if they start doing that, well, let's have 16 teams make the playoffs, and it's like, I don't know.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but aren't they saying that possibly next year it's going to be 14 teams?
I didn't. I think maybe I saw that in passing, but yeah, there are some things on the table for 23. I don't know. 12 is too much. 14 is ridiculous. I guess it's cool to get, build your interest in, especially teams that, they win 84, 85 games, and maybe that slots them in a position to actually make the playoffs, rather than having to win 92, 93, and more. Because you end up with things like, look, I know they made the playoffs, but the Dodgers win 106 games and don't win it all. You have these different anomalies that happen over time, but then you also have teams that probably won, 90, 91, 92 games in years past that were probably just as good as the 106-win Dodger team and weren't making the playoffs.
Right.
And I don't want to get into semantics about, 106 is better than 90, whatever. But based on scheduling and the amount of teams actually making the playoffs back then, and then, just pure records, like, this whole thing to me is just like you're watering it down. I don't know. I think it's cool in a way, because we do have maybe a better chance for the Phillies to make it. I don't know. They've been hovering around a 500 team. Maybe it takes 84, 85 wins to get in, and here we are. We're knocking on that door. But I don't know. Does that, before we kind of finish up the playoff conversation, does that cheapen that feeling to you?
Absolutely. I mean, here's the thing. I was pissed off when they didn't make it in 2020 when they expanded the field to like 20 teams. I was pissed off. But you know what? If we would have gotten into the playoffs, I feel like that might have altered the way that the front office, well, I'm gonna say the alters the way the front office looks at things, and maybe they're not as aggressive, or they're too aggressive. But honestly, I don't think it would have changed anything, because they don't seem to be doing anything anyway. But to not make it when they've expanded the playoffs to pretty much everyone is embarrassing. And honestly, I don't want a participation trophy. I want them to earn making the playoffs, because I think back to the 2007 season and how great, after being on the cusp and being on the cusp and being on the cusp, how great it felt to make the playoffs that year. And then the next year, like, you knew, even though we didn't really make too much noise in the playoffs in that 2007 season, we made it, and it was on our own merit and the fact that the Mets suck, but it was mostly on our merit.
7-17.
Yep. Hey, Hollywood, how's that for you? Anyway, but you know, I I want it to be on merit. I don't want to get in based on the owners wanting more playoff revenue in more cities, but at the same time, you open up the playoffs and then you don't make it. How freaking bad are you?
Yeah. Yeah, and that's going to happen. And that's, look, there's going to be your 40, 50 win teams, and they're just not going to do it, whether they were 4 teams going to the playoffs or 12. Sometimes you just have that bad of a team. The Phillies have been there, but then you also have these perpetual really bad teams at times, not all the time, but you would see, a team like Minnesota or Kansas City or Pittsburgh or some of the Midwestern regionalized or more regional teams that didn't have big markets and they didn't have big wallets. And look, I'm not saying the Phillies always did. I mean, they're the, very well known to be the losingest franchise in all of professional sports. We know that. But to that point, though, it's great that we might see a smaller market team finally crack in and maybe have some success 2, 3, 4 years in a row because there are that many teams kicking in. And I say success at least by making the playoffs. Because you do have those teams that kind of float around. They win 77 games. They win 85 games. They don't do much because they're not head over that extra hump. But maybe that season they win 85, 86 games now. Maybe they kick in, and maybe they get hot. I always look at the 2011 season, and I hate to say this, but I remember the minute I knew the Phillies were playing the Cardinals, even though the Phillies had won over 100 games that season, I knew we were in trouble. I knew it because they were hot, and they went on to win the World Series. And they were not a 100-win team. I think you'll see some things like that, which makes it interesting. Still not a fan of it.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. I agree 100%. So let's move on to the next little step here, which I don't know really what to make of this one. I question why it was done. I question who it benefits, and its limits to the number of times a player can be optioned to the minor leagues in one season. So, do you have any thoughts on this one?
It makes sense in the sense of, I know that there are certain things with contracts and how that all works with, hey, I need to send you down for whatever reason because you're basically, you're the bottom part of the roster, and I need an extra pitcher, and I can play with my roster that way. I understand it in the sense of you throw some of these young players that might have very limited service time, or they kind of sit in limbo. It's like, oh yeah, they're being called up to make that 5th start because they need it because there was a doubleheader somewhere along the way or a really long game, and they make that start, and then they kick them back down in the minors, and they do that multiple times in a season. Look, part of the rules, is it right by rule? Then yes. That's got to ruin a psyche though for certain young players, wouldn't you think?
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. The yo-yo being up and being down and being up and being down, I think it could be dangerous to a young player. I mean, it's not apples and oranges, but you look at a guy with the Flyers in Morgan Frost, and Morgan Frost has been being bounced back and forth between the main roster and the Phantoms all season, and he's not thriving in either the NHL or the AHL. And a lot of that could be because number one, he's being bounced around, and number two, he's not able to get comfortable with his teammates and get comfortable with what he's doing and play. So there's definitely I think a benefit to not jerking them around like that. And I wonder if maybe that's the impetus behind this rule. And if that's the
It's
case, then
gotta
that's
be.
cool.
Yeah, it's gotta be. Um, there's a theory out there, and it makes a lot of sense. I believe it was Jim Collins in the Good to Great book, and I could be wrong when I'm saying this, but it's basically in talking about a company. Every person has their seat on the bus, right, for the team to work properly. They fit in the slot in the right seat on the bus. Um, my thing is with people that bounce back and forth between leagues like that, and we're talking baseball here. I don't know that they know their spot on the bus. So what good is it for them to say, what good am I for the team? I don't know what role I fill because I don't know what team I'm even playing on. I don't know what bus to even get on. And it really, it's kind of fascinating to me to see some of these guys that come up kind of on a whim and they really own it and they kill it. And this is going to bring you to your next point here. And it's like, man, they're hitting 400 over 2 weeks with 3-4 home runs. And in years past, guess what? They get sent right back down. And why do they get sent back down? Because they're manipulating their service time. So what's your take on that? Because this is always, to me, I've got some thoughts on this. This has been crap to me for a long time.
Oh, absolutely. See, and this is something that's pissed me off for a long time too, because I feel like it's bullshit that they're able to basically toy with their futures, and you're essentially putting the good of the team behind your ability to control this player for another year, or whoever for another year. And so, what is the idea of spring training? The idea of spring training is to figure out who you've got on your team, who your best players are, what the best lineup is, what your best chance at succeeding is with the players you have in your organization. So what good does it do your organization to take a player who everyone can see is clearly going to be the best fit at a certain position or in a certain spot in the rotation or in a certain position in the bullpen, and have them sit in the minors for a month and a half just so you can control them for another year? What if they get hurt in the minor leagues? What if, there's so many things that you can do to damage this player and damage your team irreparably by trying to save a couple bucks at the end of the year.
Exactly.
It's ridiculous to me, and it's ridiculous that the owners have gotten away with it for so long. It pisses me off that they've been able to do that.
I think, I kind of noted this in our sheet here. I think down the road, and I'm not talking maybe like the in the same vein as like the steroid scandal or whatever, but I think this is going to be like, an ESPN 30 for 30 or something when they really look at hard the service time manipulation for certain players. And I'm not saying that like it's a benefit, or excuse me, not a benefit to everyone. I'm sure it's worked out in certain cases, and for the player maybe, just because they were able to get a little extra seasoning when they really weren't ready, because that's the whole point of that. But the thing is, you had players, and I looked this up earlier. I think it was in spring training of 2018, maybe. Ronald Acuna for the Braves was hitting like close to 500. He was like 440 or something, like hitting the crap out of the ball. And I don't believe he cracks the major league roster until the year after. Let me see. Maybe it was the end of 2018 when he finally comes up. Okay, no, he didn't start the season in 2018. He ended up playing 111 games. I don't believe he starts the season in 2018 though with them. And by all rights, he should have. But you have these like, these guys that are like him all the time that are, killing it in spring training, as you suggested, or as you said, and they don't make the opening day roster because they're controlling service time, and it's kind of sick.
Yeah, it's absolutely disgusting that these guys get screwed over like that. And I'm glad, like I said, I'm glad that they finally are taking steps to eliminate that. And I think you're 100% right. I think at some point in the near future, they're going to look back at this and be like, why? and it will be a big thing. It hasn't been yet, but I feel like it more than likely will soon.
Yeah, and I'm just kind of going back and I'm looking at the Ronald Acuna's debut. He debuted at the end of April. I just remember him being a big service time issue. But the other thing too with this is that, and this is my take on this, and you mentioned this. What if the player gets hurt? Look, most players have agents. I'm not going to say there's 100% that do, but most players have an agent, and a lot of those young guys, look, they make money, but starting major league salary, especially over time, isn't a ton. Yeah, it's more than you and I make, but they're paying an agent. Generally, they make it, and you always hear stories. I don't know how many times I bought my mom a house, I bought my dad a car, I did this for my sister, I did whatever, did these big things. At the end of the day, how much money is really left there for these guys? Because a lot of these young guys, I'm not saying not all of them, but a good portion of them, they don't have endorsement deals or anything. They're not making this extra money down on the side. They're not, and what happens if these guys, they do this, they do that, and like you said, they get hurt, all because of the service time thing. Like, right. And, chances are, yeah, they if they're really good and hopefully they're healthy, then they were making, bank, 5-6 years down the road. But that's got to be tough. Your entire family, everyone's kind of throwing all their eggs into you because you were going to be the superstar athlete, and you get basically screwed over on service time, and then you get hurt. It sucks, and I'm glad this is, finally being addressed, because this is something that's been, like I said, the Ronald Acuna situation. There's other players that are out there that have kind of fit this bill over the years. And the other thing too, you have a player that's like killing it. And it's like, I'm just going to throw him back down to the minors. Well, mid-season, that player may be the difference from your team making the playoffs down the road, because they may have helped you win an extra 4 or 5 games when you really needed it.
Right.
So I don't know. All right. Let's talk. This was cool though. I like this one. Let's talk about the draft lottery. This is interesting.
Yeah. So in sports, obviously, like hockey and basketball, and to a lesser degree football, tanking has been an issue. And basketball and hockey have the draft lottery to help kind of curb it. It still doesn't curb it all the way, because we lived through the process in Philadelphia where the Sixers were just god awful, like unwatchable basketball. Like you were better off watching St. Mary's School for the Blind play with that little beepy ball than watching the Sixers, and that's no shade thrown at St. Mary's. Hey, they're doing their thing, and it was more enjoyable, trust me. But in baseball, I never really saw it as an issue. Like you put in the notes that it's a case of bad management. So honestly, the Phillies, the worst Major League Sports franchise in the history of Major League Sports. If you look at their issues, it really does point back to mismanagement and a lack of developing homegrown talent. So I don't necessarily see a whole lot of tanking going on in baseball, but any steps that they're going to put in to prohibit that stuff, I'm all for it.
Yeah, no, look, I don't know that, like you said, you made it, you made this point and made this comment and whatnot. I don't know that that's a big problem. And I think other teams have proved, and I won't dig into all this. I kind of thought this was, kind of a beating it down the road type thing. But I think other teams that don't have like big payrolls have proved this on purpose, because small teams could easily, and I mean easily, tank and be bad and try to get high draft picks. But the Rays and the A's, I think, have proved that multiple times. They don't need the money to win. I mean, the Rays last year, I look at this, they were roughly one quarter of the LA Dodgers payroll, and both teams won 100 games. I mean, granted, LA won 106, but still, you know what I mean?
But 100 games is nothing to sneeze at.
Exactly. But the Rays have been consistently good like that for a long time with no payroll. They could tank all the time. They don't have to because they're managed correctly. Good farm systems, as you said, Phillies, mismanaged farm system. But then you have things like unfortunate injuries that happen. Look, you said it. It's an organizational problem, but I am glad that they're having it because this is something that does again entice maybe the fan to come back. Maybe they little bad taste in their mouth over certain things. So it's like, ooh, you know what? My team is all of a sudden got a good draft pick. Being there's 5 really good guys that could go this year. Now we're number 3 instead of number 8. So I don't know.
Yeah,
Makes it interesting.
It's interesting, and like we said, I don't really see it, and you don't really see it as a big issue, but apparently it's something that they felt the need to address, and so good. I'm glad that they're taking proactive steps to keep it from becoming an issue like it is in the NHL and in the NBA. Easy for me to say. So let's move on to the next one. Next one is, and thank God, this is one I don't think that there's one person on the planet that's going to disagree. I'm sure there is, because somebody's got to disagree with anything that makes sense. But instead of playing 2 7-inning games for the doubleheaders, they're going back to full 9-inning games. Thank you, God.
Yes, amen. I absolutely, like you, hated, and I mean hated, the 7-inning crap. And look, I even say this in my notes, and I don't want to go down this road too many times on our podcast. I understand that it was a response for COVID. I get that. I was so glad that we had baseball. It came back. Right. We had something. Right. But look, even in hindsight, it was dumb then. If you're playing 7 or 14 innings, you might as well play 9 or 18. I mean,
right. It's not like COVID's going to say, well, they're still in the 7th inning. I can't get them until the 8th or 9th.
Exactly.
That's not how it works, man. You're on the field, you're playing, you're interacting. If you're going to get it, it's going to happen in the, by the 7th inning stretch, you've got COVID if you were going to get it in that game.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't check out at the 8th inning. It was, hindsight, one of the dumbest things. But again, I hate to say that because I really enjoyed being able to have something then. But so glad to see the 9-inning doubleheaders come back. And, here's the thing, too. Honestly, before COVID, we really weren't getting that many doubleheaders anyway. It just so happened with, with the rainouts or those sorts of things. The doubleheaders of yesteryear were pretty much non-existent outside of rainout situations or random reschedulings because of whatever. Right. So,
I mean, I guess actually, if we take away the COVID aspect of it and we just say that, all right, they're playing so many games in a condensed schedule, I guess to try and save time here and there, but beyond that COVID shortened season, the original COVID shortened season, not 2021. There was no reason for it to happen in 2021 because even though you were playing a shortened schedule, you weren't playing a full 162. Wait, did they play 162?
I think they did. The 2020 season was only 60 games. Right. That was the rush season. And that's probably why. No, that makes sense. But yeah, they were still doing that last year, and they played a full or close enough to full season. Because I realized there were still games that were canceled out, whatever, but they still ended up playing, I think, nearly every game. So, that good. That's gone. We don't have to worry about that one. But,
you know what else we don't have to worry about?
Who?
We don't have to worry about ghosts.
Yeah, I'm good. Because I was scared too, because I thought we were gonna have to get Peter Venkman and Ray Stantz out there.
yeah, dude. Well, apparently the MLB has come out in a strong way, and they have come out against ghosts. There will be no more, so in extra innings during COVID times, we started with a man on second, colloquially known as a ghost runner. Not your typical ghost runner like in our backyard barbecue games because there was actually a person there, but you know, for all intents and purposes, it was against ghosts. And the other reason that we're saying ghosts is there was talk of ghost wins for division winners in the playoffs,
Oh, ugh.
and so they did not move forward with that. Thank God, because again, talking about participation trophies, win the games. You want to win,
Yeah.
you win the games. And when we say ghost wins, what it looked like was this. So even though they were a division winner, they were still going to have to play a game, the best 2 out of 3 in to start the playoffs. And what they were saying is, if you're a division winner, you automatically win the first game. So then you only have to win one game, and the other team has to win two. But I don't buy that. You win by playing the game. You don't get handed anything. And I understand, there should be an advantage for the division winner. Well, there's going to be advantages for the division winner. That's how they got there. There's going to be advantages for them. But one of those advantages is not going to be, or should not be, a free win without playing the game.
Exactly. I know this is probably not the right analogy, but mulligan in golf.
Yeah.
That we just kind of,
a handicap.
Yeah, just give it. Yeah, exactly. There you go. Just give it to me. I just don't. I hate that. Like, look, don't get me wrong. We've talked a lot about things that I don't care for here. Universal DH, and we'll talk about some other things that I don't care for either. This I really don't like. And what's even worse is that this is, it's not quite dead yet. There has been talks of them bringing this back somehow, some way, but maybe not in the 10th inning. Maybe they'll do it in the 11th or 12th. I don't care. I don't like it because we don't get to see, really cool things like, was it Wilson Valdez and his amazing pitching ability in the 19th inning?
Oh Jesus. Yeah.
We don't get to see things like Roy Oswalt playing left field.
I had completely forgot that Roy Oswalt was in left field.
Look, I get it. I mean, you're trying to speed the game up. You're trying to do these other things. We're going to talk about something toward the end of our MLB notes here that I think is a much better idea. Not a fan of the Ghost Runner stuff. I don't want it. Don't even. If anyone is up there at the MLB offices and the Player Association listening to this, just stop right now.
We ain't afraid of no ghosts, but we also don't want them in our baseball.
No, and I think you pointed me in the direction of John Heyman's quote was amazing. That was good.
Yes. So he said MLB is strongly against ghosts. Or wait, No, is against ghosts. Not strongly. I'm strongly against ghosts.
There you go.
In baseball.
Yeah.
I mean, look, obviously they're not that anti-ghost. They did have a Field of Dreams game, and that's all about ghosts playing baseball. So they're clearly not super against ghosts. It's just right now they're choosing to be against ghosts.
Yes. So let's talk about rules going 2023 and ahead, and then we'll dive into the Phillies non-off season. But
you really want to make this an explicit episode, don't you?
It'll rile you up before the end here. So 2023, though, let's talk about this. The new CBA allows for 45 days for the owners to implement further rule changes that would not take effect until the 2023 season. And these rules include banning the shift. And I want to hear what you have to say about this.
So this is where we get explicit. So, look, when we had Ryan Howard, I wanted to ban the shift, but it was because Ryan Howard hit into the shift every friggin' at bat that he had. Again, love Ryan Howard. I'm speaking in hyperbole. Ryan Howard. We don't have World Series without Ryan Howard. Great Philly, one of the greatest Phillies of all time. Love him, but he could not avoid the shift. What other sport besides the neutral zone trap in hockey, which I agree with taking that out because it just destroys the game. What other sport do they take away a defensive alignment because the offense can't do its job against it? Explain that to me, because I really need a good explanation for why the shift is being taken out. You don't want to you want to avoid the shift. You want to neutralize the shift. You don't want people to do the shift anymore. Hit the fucking ball the other way.
There we go.
Fucking hard. Go opposite field for once in your fucking life, you cretin. You can do that. It's not against the fucking rules yet. But if we keep going the way we're going, there's not gonna be any fielders on the field anymore. There's gonna be little fucking spots, and if you hit the ball into a certain fucking spot, you get a double. Or this spot is a triple. Or this spot is a fucking multi-ball.
It's gonna be like the Mario party baseball, or the toy, or the there's a game the toy baseball stuff. Yeah. Yeah. That's exactly what it's going to be. And look, I hate this. I really hate this. And again, it goes back to the pitcher, right? Off of being able to bat. The strategy gets reduced. To me, it's just another attempt to water down the game. Again, I guess it draws more interest because there's more offense. And with more interest, there's more money. As a longtime fan, I hate it. Here's the thing I'm kind of wondering, and I just, again, take it or leave it. I honestly think this could do two things. I think it could create some amazing defensive plays because they can't play in shift, they're having to run like crazy to try to get to the ball. You're going to see some pretty awesome top 10 highlights. However, I think that could also potentially create some really gnarly injuries that are completely avoidable because you could have avoided it because you could have had the shift. Because there are players, and I can't tell you how many Chase Utleys we do have still around, but there are players like him who, if he were still playing, that would be absolutely insane and try to go from second base to the first base line in a matter of 3 seconds, and about halfway die trying to do it because that's the kind of player he was. And I think a player like that would get hurt. And I hope I'm wrong. I'm just kind of trying to think through like what's going to happen. Because not everyone has top tier speed, and not everyone will ever have top tier speed. And I don't know.
Right. I mean, to me, honestly, it's like saying, oh, Tom Brady is having trouble with and I could see the NFL doing this. Tom Brady's having trouble with the Tampa 2 defense, so we're going to outlaw that. You can't have, you can't line up in that formation. You can't bracket a receiver. You can't spy a quarterback anymore because Jalen Hurts can't get around the edge anymore. Or Patrick Mahomes can't. I don't know. Patrick Mahomes can do everything. So anyway, it's just dumbing down the sport. And
yeah.
I don't like simplification. I don't like dumbing down. If you're trying to teach kids, okay, cool. You dumb it down. You simplify it, and then you add things as they go. That's how you teach. That's how you learn. This is not doing that for anybody. I get offense is what brings in numbers. I totally get that. I understand that. Don't get me wrong. And I understand that offense is what brings in the money. But at some point, you're sacrificing the sport for money. And I'll never be okay with that.
No, and kind of the other thing, too, is that once you do things like this, and this is going to be very stupid for me to say, but, when I buy that next copy of MLB The Show, and let's just, pretend that, being able to put my team into the shift is gone in real life, well, guess what's gone in the video game? You're dumb, like you said, and I make that comment because you just said it too. You're dumbing it down, you're simplifying it, and you're simplifying it for everybody and everything. Even if you don't play the game, if you just pick up a controller and you play it that way, guess what? You're dumbing it down for them too. And it sucks. I don't like it. It's to me, this is worse to me than universal DH. Because I
agree.
It is. And I only say that because, look, DH has been around for 50 years. I think we can agree that it's at least been useful to certain things. I don't know this because what's the next thing? What are you going to take away next? It's like we bring into this one. Okay, here's a great one right now. We'll go into it right now. The pitch clock. I'm not saying that this is a completely awful idea, but what's your take on the pitch clock then?
So, in theory, I'm on the fence about it. All right, and what I mean by when I say that is the change of the game. But honestly, if it means that we're not watching the pitcher meander around the infield after every pitch, and it saves time that way, I'm good with it. It's not necessarily the implementation that I'm upset, or the fact that we're going to do it that upsets me. It's just changing the game for. It almost feels like the sake of change, but I know deep down in my heart it's not, because we do need to make the games a little bit faster. And as long as they're not putting them on like a 5-second pitch clock, if they still have time to, use their brains a little bit, and they're not basically just a pitching machine at this point, then I agree with it. I really need to see how long in between pitches they have. That's my biggest question with it. It's kind of like the shot clock in basketball. They implemented that to move the offense along and to move the game along. And it was a good addition to the game. I just got to see how exactly they implement it in baseball. But honestly, while I was initially opposed to it, I feel like it's actually a good addition to the game.
Yeah, no. So I think it'll be. Here's my take, and there's a great article on Baseball America that came out at the end of it's September 2021. It's written by J.J. Cooper. When they first implemented it, I think you were shaving some time off. Unfortunately, when they started messing around with it, I think it was like back in, 2000 and no. It was several years ago, 2015, I think. Yeah, 2015. So that's several years ago now. The game times were reducing a little bit. But unfortunately, even with that reduction in time, other things have happened for the time to creep up. And now here's the crazy thing. And I'm looking at some average 9-inning game times across the board. So, pitch clocks being introduced. I'm not saying this was across the board, but it was introduced at some level of the minor leagues in 2015. But looking at AAA, AA games, the time has actually increased moving from 2015 to now. So it's for other reasons. Now, I don't know that the pitch clock is the answer. I do like the fact that you don't have to worry about the pitcher dilly-dallying around the mound.
Right.
Never was a fan of that. So I don't hate the idea. It's not traditional. But look, baseball's never going to be fast-paced. So I don't know exactly that this solves that problem.
Right. I mean, and that's the thing. I feel like, as they're speeding things up by adding the pitch clock, we also introduced the manager's challenges and instant replay review.
Yep. Exactly.
That's where so for all the time we're gaining with the pitch clock, we're losing time with that. So they've got to, like you said, it never has been, and it never will be a fast-paced game. That's not going to happen. And so, and that may be, honestly, the death knell for baseball, so to speak. Whereas, kids, I don't want to say kids nowadays don't have the attention span for it, because they do. There's a lot of kids, and I don't want to, take away credit for where credit's due. There's a lot of kids that love baseball. No, it's not as flashy as basketball or soccer or football or whatever, but it's still a fun sport. It's still a fun sport to watch, to play, to be involved with. But I don't think you can fundamentally change it and make it something it's not, which it's never going to be fast.
No, and I saw something today too. I believe this is being tested out in the minors at some point into the season, not at the beginning of the season. I'm not even sure what level. But you mentioned challenges, and apparently challenges are being introduced for pitches.
So we're slowing it down even further.
Exactly. So, again, it's a great answer if you remove other stuff.
So honestly, let's be real here, okay? If they really want to speed up the game, if they really want to make it what they're envisioning, then they need to figure out a way to do away with the umpire judging balls and strikes behind the plate.
Yeah, yeah,
That's the start and finish to this argument is some
yeah.
kind of automated ball and strike
It's
system.
not. It's not that hard. All you gotta do is put a chair back there.
Right. I mean, that's all we do. But
That's no.
well,
That's no disrespect to umpires out there. That's just a. It's a good backyard
I
joke.
don't know. It's a little disrespect to them because a lot of them. See, that's the other problem is uh, I'm firmly anti umpire, and especially when they try to take over the games themselves, make themselves the stars of the game. Um, I don't know, man. I have a huge problem with Major League Baseball umpires, and the sooner we can get them out of there, the better for me.
Hey, I
Maybe that
will
just goes
not.
back to Little League, and I'm just biased, but
I'll never forget the time Bruce Fleming drop kicked Charlie Hayes' helmet into the dugout. So
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah. There we go.
some of them are cool, some of them are cool, but I don't know. I just have a deep seated dislike of umpires. So especially
All right.
if I get to know their name, then something's wrong.
Yeah,
I
exactly,
should
dude.
We should not know their
Exactly.
names.
No. All right, so we got a couple of more things here that for potential for 2023 or beyond. And again, this stuff's kind of this is more open. Then we'll dive into the Phillies a little bit before we close up shop here. But the next couple things here, the next one is larger bases. Ugh. What is this?
Dude, I'm I'm at a loss. So we've got pizza boxes on the field now. You might as well start putting Domino's and Little Caesars and Jets on the sides of the bases. Supposed to increase player safety and increase stolen bases because there's a larger base for the players to reach for and decrease collisions at the bases and blah blah blah. No, it's bullshit. You're making it easier. I
Yeah.
get it. You want to increase offense. You want more exciting plays. Stealing a base is exciting. I get it. I get it. Why are we artificially doing this? This is like, you know, Major League Baseball, which we talked about, juicing baseballs and sending juiced baseballs to certain series and dead balls to other series.
Oh gosh, yeah, we got into that pretty deep, and yeah, we'll have to revisit that at some point. But I thought about the large base thing, and was like, of course, my mind is like, someone's going to get hurt.
Right. Well,
but,
no, but let's be real, because for years, ever since, you know, I know I played Little League ever since I was like 5 or 6. The bases were the same size no matter where I played. Now, for these same guys, they've been playing baseball for 20 some years and they got used to the base being a certain size. You get used to running the bases a certain way. All right, I'm running down first base. I'm looking in the outfield. I see the outfielder hasn't gotten the ball. I need to start making my turn so I can get the turn around first base. I have got that down to a T. What the best route is for me to do that so that I can quickly get to second base and beyond if possible. And I've done that the same way for years and years and years. So now I've got to be cognizant of the fact that there's a different size base. So if I step, how many times have we seen players round first base or run through the bag and twist their ankle because they land on the bag wrong?
yeah, yeah, and I don't see that getting any better.
No.
That was the first thing that stuck out to me about this one. But like here we go. We'll finish up our MLB rule change part here with this one because you actually brought in the perfect segue as we started to talk about larger bases. Do we see Domino's or do we see Pizza Hut sponsor a base?
It's very possible because they've decided that they're going to allow ads on the helmets, on the jerseys. I mean, we're essentially every sport is becoming NASCAR at this point. And it sucks because you know what? They spend all this money, all this marketing on these jerseys, on these uniforms to make them look cool. And now you're going to throw a fucking Acme sticker on the back of it. You're going to have, HBO Max, the Houston HBO Max Astros. or the Houston Astro glides.
Or your first base line sponsored by Pablo Escobar.
Yeah, no, that's in Miami.
Okay.
Yeah, all the lines on the field in Miami are made out of cocaine because they want to support local businesses. It's insane, man. I hate it. It started, it's bad enough watching hockey games. They've got the computer generated ads on the glass, right? And they've got certain ads on the boards that change and on the ice that are computer generated that change throughout the game. And it's distracting. It really is. Then you've got the ads on the helmets, which the ads on the helmets aren't that intrusive. I don't really mind them as much. At least with the Flyers, it's just 3 letters. It's not anything big. It doesn't look like anything, it doesn't really look out of the ordinary. But soon enough, it's going to be like, you're just going to have, I don't know. I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah. I really hope I'm wrong. I always look back at this because, this even goes back to this, but I mean, heck, when we started watching baseball, there were no ads on the walls even. I mean, there were no ads. I mean, there were ads by like the scoreboard. That was about it. Right. But I always think that Major League 2 was absolutely prophetic in this. And there's a good Bob Uecker quote. So Weaver doubles off the Zippo bail bond sign. But I mean, that's where we're going, and it's where we're kind of at already, but we're going there even further. And it's just so funny because it's like, yeah, back when we started watching baseball, the whole outfield wall was green or whatever. And now, like you said, there's ads all over the place. Now there's going to be ads on players, and is there ads on bases? What else is next?
Ads on the baseballs.
Yeah, exactly. It's probably going to be something stupid, and it's really dumb stuff too. It'll probably be like a QR code, and they'll pick up the baseball and show it to the camera, and just, I don't know, where does it stop?
Right. Well, let's get to the next one, though, because I didn't see this one. You put this on here, and I loved it.
Yes, and I almost forgot about it, too. But, yeah, no, dude, read this, because this is awesome.
All right. So, if the All-Star game remains tied after 9 innings, the game will be decided by a home run derby between the teams, subject to the parties' agreement on details and format. And that's Exhibit 13, titled Tentative Agreement, All-Star Game and Home Run Derby.
Dude, yeah. Dude, this was like a childhood dream for me. I saw this and was like, look, they said it was tentative, so it's obviously not decided yet. But if you're going to do it anywhere, do this at the All-Star game. And if you want to put that Ghost Runner crap for me, do this instead.
Right. No. So here's what you do. That's exactly how you do it. So you play home run derby with your players, and you go through the lineup. But there's lines on the field. So, all right, you hit it past here, it's automatically a single. You hit it past here, it's automatically a double, triple, home run. Right? That's how you do that. And then that's awesome. When you do the Ghost Runners. And then you've got the best of both worlds. You've got backyard baseball. Matter of fact, I'm not convinced that you don't do that for the All-Star game proper. Because I would get a kick out of that. I don't know about you. I don't watch the All-Star game really anymore. I used to, when I was a kid, All-Star Weekend was my jam. I was always watching it. I loved the home run derby. Thought it was the greatest thing ever. At this point, I don't know. I almost feel like I want more backyard baseball than I want an actual game.
Yeah, All-Star game's tough. I still kind of try to watch the home run derby at least. I don't really watch the All-Star game because, one, being a Phillies fan, really hasn't been a whole lot of All-Stars lately. But I still do enjoy the home run derby. It's gotten a little crazy because of the amount of home runs people hit anymore. But it's still fun. It's to me probably the last good vestige of major sports all-star activities, because we all know the Pro Bowl has always been a joke. The NBA stuff used to be really cool, has really gone downhill. I don't know. Like, I'm cool with
the NHL. I really enjoy the NHL because they've gone to threes.
True. That's right. You're right. That's right. yeah, no, the pro sports all-star or Pro Bowl stuff, whatever, has always been kind of a eh. But baseball somehow kept it together. But they kept on adding like really weird stuff like, yeah, the winner is going to get World Series home field advantage. It's like,
Yeah, which I'm totally
what? Anyhow, so, but those are our 2022-23, changes or possible changes. Those are fun. I do want to stick here the last couple minutes here and talk about what the Phillies did or did not do this offseason. And I just want to start up here with the bullpen, where they have signed former Met Juris Familia, former other National League East player Brad Hand, and Corey Knebel, who about 4, 5, 6 years ago for the Brewers was knocking it out as a closer, and I think that is going to be the potential Phillies closer. So what say you on these 3 bullpen signings?
more like bullshit. Knebel, I'm down with. I'm good with him as a starting piece of the puzzle. I'm not going to talk shit on Brad Hand because I don't know enough about him to talk shit. What I will say is Familia fits he's the perfect Phillies bullpen pitcher because he fits right the fuck in, throwing gasoline on a fire. And he's going to blow so many saves and so many games for us that are within reach. And then he comes in and the whole fucking thing blows up. So great job, John Middleton. You're doing fucking outstanding, you piece of shit.
So Brad Hand, boy, and I thought about this. Yeah, as I mentioned, he played for the Nationals. He played for the Marlins, and he also played for the Mets. So he's really made the rounds in the NL East. So if anything, at least he's familiar with the NL East. The guy's been around for a long time. I think he's a great bullpen arm. I think he's a great addition for the Phils. Somewhat of a small contract. The guy's not your closer, but he is, does have that experience. Familia was once a great reliever. I don't like this signing at all. I'm in complete agreement with you. I think he's going to just not do anything for us, and he's going to end up being cut at some point in the season.
See, if we wouldn't have paid as much as we did for him, I'd have been, if it was, we're going to take a flyer on this guy who used to have it and has lost it, and we're going to hope that we can get the best out of him, and we give him a major league minimum, or even at $1 million or $2 million a year, I'm good. But what did we pay? We paid him somewhere between 6 and 9. Is it 6 million a year or 9 million a year?
No, I thought Brad Hand got 6. I don't know. Familia might have gotten more. I'm not entirely sure. Look, I'm not going to sit here and completely dump on the guy. The guy's got 3.28 lifetime ERA, and he went 9-4 last year. He stayed under a 4 ERA. But here's the thing: Familia back 5-6 years ago led the league in saves, and over his time in New York, and then gets bumped out of New York, then comes back to New York, is no longer the closer. To me, that's pretty telling. I don't like this. I just don't like it. I hope to God he proves me wrong. I really do.
Don't get me wrong. I want him to do well. Unlike the next person we're going to talk about. I want him to do well. I just can't see it.
No, I don't either. I think I've got more faith in Brad Hand, and only because of Brad Hand's absolute to me, Brad Hand has never been as good as Familia, but Brad Hand's been more consistent. And I think that's my one issue with Familia is that Familia has had seasons where, like 19 with the Mets was a thing for me that just really makes me just wonder. He's pushing an ERA of 6. I don't, that hurts because really that's a tough, full season there. Looking at, Brad Hand, he had some little bit of ups and downs in 2021, but even then he still was at a 3.38. Brad Hand's never been, I think he had a season back in 15 where he was over a 5. In ERA. The consistency to me lies in Brad Hand. I think that was a better signing. And I just hope, like you said, Familia proves me wrong. Proves us wrong.
Yeah.
All right.
So,
next one.
You say this next fucker because I don't even want to say his stupid fucking name.
Okay. So the Phillies re-signed a day or two ago Odubel Herrera. And look, this has been an interesting thing for the Phillies with we won't get into the allegations thing because that's all since subsided, but talk about somebody that never lived up to their original contract. I mean, he did earn the contract initially, and then he just never lived up to the contract that he just got out of. And now you're stuck with having to re-sign him because, in my head, two things. All the major free agents, center fielders, were off the board. In my honest opinion, who's left being Brett Gardner, I don't think Brett Gardner was the answer. And two, it's been very well speculated that the Phillies were looking at trying to trade for the Pirates center fielder, outfielder Brian Reynolds. And my guess is that the asking price was just astronomical. And so that's how you end up with Odubel Herrera. However, it looks to be, based on some stuff I've been reading from trade rumors and some other like Philly sports media, that's going to be a platoon situation with the young Matt Vierling, who in a short window last year hit well over 300 or over 300 with a couple of home runs. So I'm hoping that there's something there. The only problem I have with Matt Vierling is that I don't think his defense is up to snuff. Anyhow, there's my long-winded Odubel Herrera lead into how you're going to absolutely kill him.
Fuck Odubel Herrera. So here's the deal. Now, I just had to look for my insanity. We haven't officially signed him yet. As far as I can tell.
I thought we did.
Officially signed him. There's been rumors. I'm hoping to God that they don't re-sign this giant piece of shit waste of fucking money and plop him in the middle of fucking center field. Because honestly, I'd rather see fucking Lenny Dykstra's goddamn tobacco spit out there trying to put a ball than this fucking shit sting. We've got Adam Hazley still in the minors, right? Bring him the fuck up. I'd rather see him platoon with Veering. I'd rather see them bring back Andrew McCutchen, who doesn't have the wheels to play center anymore. I'd still fucking rather see him in center field than this piece of shit. Anyway,
well, unfortunately, McCutchen signed with the Brewers, so we're out there.
Well, God damn it.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Sign Ryan. You know what? Ryan Barney just had a son. He's not that old, but I guarantee you he'll be more likable than Odubel Herrera. Fuck him, fuck him, fuck him. And did I say fuck him? I'd rather shit in a sock and throw it in center field and let it try and field fucking balls than watch Odubel Herrera take another step in the Phillies pinstripes. He is a piece of shit. He doesn't deserve to be in the league. He's lost his fucking right to play Major League Baseball. Fuck him. Get him out of the fucking league. Or let him go play with some other shit team.
I was honestly shocked that this, like you mentioned Adam Hazley. I thought this would be the last chance for Hazley. Honestly, I thought that they would have him try to man center field, and with Vierling being a fourth outfielder. Right. I honestly didn't really think they'd re-sign Herrera. Look, in Herrera, when he's right, he's an okay ball player. I hate this because there were so many good center fielders out there that they could have easily dumped money into, especially with the massive Comcast contract or whatever. and all this other crap that's supposedly there money-wise in Philadelphia. And it leads me to my last thing. You have all this, you have all this money in Philly, and you end up with signing 3 decent. I think it does solidify the bullpen, at least 2 of the 3. And hopefully Familia proves me wrong. But the last big thing they did was trade for a new backup catcher. They have done really nothing else since.
Right. And that pisses me off because John Middleton has so much fucking money it's coming out his ass. And he's, I want my trophy back. No, you don't, motherfucker. You're a fucking liar. You come out here, you take all this money from the city, from the fans, you pretend like you're one of us, you pretend like you give a shit about this team, and then you pull this bullshit that we've seen this fucking offseason. The luxury tax has gone up. You have money to spend. There is zero reason why we don't have an impact player coming into Philly this year. Zero fucking reason.
Yeah.
The only reason is your fucking greed. Sorry,
No. I saw an article about how, the headline, headlines and articles. Obviously, we've done an entire podcast about that got you nice and riled up. But saw an article about how Mike Trout would come to play at Philly, and it was so I clicked into it, and it was like at the end of his career when he's like pushing 40. And it's like, well, yeah, obviously, because, he's from Millville and he's a big Eagles fan. I'm sure that's how it's going to happen. It's like, you would think that if they're really that serious, like, and I'm not saying him necessarily, I'm just using him as an example, that they would pull some strings to find a trade somewhere with anybody and take on a big salary, because I believe there's still $30 million or so under the luxury tax thing. And I don't know.
Here's what it's going to come down to. They brought Bryce Harper here. Bryce Harper wanted to come to Philadelphia, asked for a no-trade clause so that he could stay in Philadelphia. And they're wasting him. They're absolutely wasting him and making him look like a fucking moron because they refuse to do what's necessary to put a fucking winning team on this field. Not only are they not bringing in players in free agency, not only are they not trading for people, but we don't have anybody in our farm system to trade because this fucking management group and ownership group has decimated any kind of farm system we had through complete and utter mismanagement. And they refuse to fix what's fucking wrong. Their front office sucks ass. They can't do anything right. And they just keep digging this team and this organization further and further into the fucking ground. And it disgusts me. And we're going to piss off Bryce Harper. And he's going to say, you know what? I made a fucking mistake. I need to get out of here.
Yeah. Yeah, no. I mean, no, you're not wrong. This is a big season for us. I really think that, and look, whether one of two things has to happen here. And I mean this with all sincerity. I don't know that they make a big off-season splash right now, because it certainly doesn't seem like they will. But I am hoping to God that they are somewhat halfway decent enough that come All-Star break, it's like, you know what? We're pulling the trigger on something amazing. That's the only thing I'm hoping for right now, because right now it certainly doesn't seem like it. Right. That's it. I mean, that's kind of where I'm in. That's my glass half full on this, is that I don't see it now. I hope to God I see it at All-Star time. But man, dude, they did nothing. I think they shore up the bullpen a little bit, and I'm hoping that maybe a couple of these guys actually come up from the minors and do something. But Bryson Stott has been name's been thrown around to play shortstop. And this is no slight to Didi, but Didi shouldn't be our everyday shortstop anymore. Didi should be DHing at this point. Mm-hmm. I think there's some guys that should hopefully would come up and do something. because that's what the Phillies don't have. That's what they've been missing. They don't have the Utley, the Jimmy Rollins, and the Ryan Howard, and that core group of people. They haven't had that for a long time. You know, they brought in some big guns in Harper and JT. Yeah, it's nice having Reese there at first base. Other than that, Kingery was a bust. The mess that the outfield outside of Bryce Harper that's been, and this is no slight against Andrew McCutchen and what he tried to do for us, but
right,
and inevitably was us with some really oddball seasons. But everyone else has been a disaster. There's just nothing there, and I just hope starting pitching too. I mean, I really, I look at Nolan. I think he's taken a step back, and man, I don't know.
You're absolutely right. Now, Nola is a huge issue for me, just based on he'll have these stretches early in the season where he looks unbeatable, and then by September, he's just garbage. And I don't know if it's going through the different managers and different pitching coaches, and that has gotten into his head and has screwed him up, or what. But they can't figure out their pitching. They can't figure out their staff. And look, I did not like Gabe Kapler at all. I was willing to drive him to the airport when we fired him. But what did he do? What has he been doing with the Giants since he left here? Maybe it's not the manager's problem or that are the problem, because he's got the Giants humming.
Oh yeah, exactly.
He won National League Manager of the Year. Was it last year or was it the year before?
I think it was gosh. Oh, I don't remember. I really don't. I think it was maybe last year. Yeah, he won it last year. Yep.
Okay, so there we go. So he wins Manager of the Year after being derided and ridiculed here, and I was one of the ones that was trashing him. And at the time, I thought, man, this guy, why is this guy a manager in Major League Baseball? And then all he does is go and win Manager of the Year, because he was with a team and an organization that understands it, that gets it, and is able to be competent and put together a team, put together a roster, put together a minor league system. And we don't have that.
No, it sucks at all. Like I said, the walls came crashing in for the Phillies after the 11th season. There's been some bright spots with trying to bring in Harper. That was awesome, and JT, and Zach Wheeler. As some big splashes. Yeah, but there's no cohesive unit, and there's no to me, there has not been a young guy. Maybe Reese Hoskins at times, but there's not been a young guy to me that stands out. It's like, man, this is the new Rollins. This is the new Utley. This is the new Howard. This is the new whoever. Right. And even these flyers that we'd take on people like Jason Worth or Shane Victorino, there's nothing there. Right. It's great. Yeah, we've had Bamboo Brad Miller. That's awesome. What is? Right. I don't know. All right. I before I get too down on myself for the Phillies here.
Yeah, I don't want you down in the hole with me. So I'm gonna end this episode. We've talked about a lot. There's a lot to look at. There's a lot to take in, a lot to process. And honestly, let's be realistic here. We're getting baseball back. Maybe it's not in the form that we had hoped. Maybe the Phillies are going to be atrocious this year, but at least we're going to have baseball. So let's just be happy about that. And I know it's kind of funny coming from me after my, expletive-laden rants there. But let's look at the bright side. Welcome back, baseball. Thank you for coming back. Fuck the owners. Fuck John Middleton. Let's go, Phils.